What's up, guys? It's me, Tiff, and there have been some fun new developments in the FTX saga. So first of all, Sam Bankman-Fried is now a blogger, which I'm sure his lawyers are thrilled about. As I stated in a previous video, when I first visited Sam Bankman-Fried at his parents' house in Palo Alto, California, he told me he was in the process of writing up a comprehensive chronology of events as he remembered them. Well, it looks like he's sharing little slivers of that chronology now on his Substack page. Pretty shocking for someone who's racked up 8 criminal charges from the Department of Justice and is facing up to 115 years in prison. I actually spoke with Sam Bankman-Fried the day before he launched his Substack blog, so I got a little sneak preview of his first post, as well as some of the balance sheets he made. I also asked if his lawyers approved of his Substack, to which he responded they were okay with it. Apparently they read over his first post and gave it their sign-off, but using basic common sense, I'm sure they're not ecstatic about it. So I'm gonna go over Sam's first Substack post and include some commentary and thoughts from our personal conversations, as well as some other big news like the potential reopening of FTX. But before we dive in, if you've been following me for any amount of time, you'll know that I've never accepted a sponsorship. I've never shilled a token or a pump and dump. I've never promoted an exchange or any company for that matter. But I've just accepted my first sponsorship with Blinkist because I actually like Blinkist and I use Blinkist. Blinkist is an app that gives you the key ideas from over 5,000 of the top nonfiction titles that you can read or listen to in about 15 minutes each. It's not just book summaries. The Blinkist team extracts the most important concepts from books and podcasts and conveys them in a really easy to understand and digestible way. Personally, I travel a lot and I like to learn something new every day so I feel productive. So I download a bunch of Blinks before I hop on flights because I can listen to them without Wi-Fi. It's just a really efficient way to consume information. It's perfect for people who like to learn, it's perfect for people who are super busy, and it's perfect for those of you who want to sound like you read books that you didn't actually read to impress your friends. I love that they have curated selections from interesting people. Personally, I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. No, I don't agree with every single thing he says, but I do like a lot of his work, and he has a curated list of book recommendations on Blinkist. I'm going through right now and listening to each one to get a feel for the books, and I'll go ahead and purchase the full version of my favorite. This morning, I listened to Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and I really enjoyed it. Might buy the full book. I also, personally, struggle a lot with getting enough sleep, so this year in 2023, I'm gonna listen through Blinkist's Insomnia No More collection to try to get my sleep on track. There's also a new feature called Blinkist Connect that allows you to share an account with a friend at no additional cost, so you can share book recommendations and favorites, and it's very cute. So you can get 25% off Blinkist Premium and 2 memberships for the price of 1 with the little link in my description box. Anyway, back to the video. So now, let's get into Sam's first Substack post. So basically, he explains how FTX International became insolvent and blames its collapse on 3 things. Firstly, he says, Alameda's balance sheet grew to roughly $100 billion of net asset value and had $8 billion of net borrowing and $7 billion of liquidity on hand. Secondly, Alameda failed to sufficiently hedge its market exposure. Over the course of 2022, a series of market crashes led to an approximate 80% decrease in the market value of its assets. Third, and finally, in November 2022, Binance's CEO, CZ, precipitated an extreme, quick, targeted crash that caused Alameda to become insolvent. Again, no surprise here, he's placing some blame on CZ at Binance. So he's basically using this opportunity to proclaim his innocence and ensure everyone that there was no malicious intent. He also continues to assert that FTX International and FTX US are completely separate entities and that FTX US is allegedly completely solvent. He basically says that FTX International was indeed prepared to withstand several massive market crashes throughout 2022, but that it was not prepared to withstand CZ's alleged targeted attack, which ended up being the straw that broke the camel's back. He emphasizes that he had no control over Alameda at the time, but says that since Alameda had a huge margin position on FTX, that when Alameda became illiquid, FTX International did as well. And then the run on the bank sparked by CZ turned the illiquidity into insolvency. He compares the collapse of FTX to the collapses of Voyager, Genesis, and BlockFi, who all basically went down because of 3AC's implosion. He's basically trying to portray Alameda as just another customer of FTX with a big margin position. He obviously fails to point out the special treatment that Alameda received. In Caroline Ellison's plea hearing, she says that Alameda was allegedly permitted an unlimited line of credit without being required to post collateral, and that Alameda was allowed to have negative negative balances on FTX International without being subject to margin calls on FTX's liquidation protocol. Sam has yet to publicly address Caroline Ellison's statements. Furthermore, in his Substack, Sam claims that he's dedicating nearly all of his personal assets to customers. He says, "I didn't steal funds and I certainly didn't stash billions away. Nearly all of my assets were and still are utilizable to backstop FTX customers. I have, for instance, offered to contribute nearly all of my personal shares in Robinhood to customers, or 100% if the Chapter 11 team would honor my D&O legal expense indemnification." For a little bit of color on this statement, last time I spoke with Sam, he said that the Robinhood shares were not actually a part of the bankruptcy estates because they were purchased by Emergent Fidelity, which he's a 90% owner of. In our last conversation, he claimed that he actually offered the Chapter 11 team a deal to either contribute 95% of his Robinhood shares to customers in order to keep 5% for his legal fees, or to contribute 100% of the shares if his D&O insurance obligations were honored. He claims that the Chapter 11 team rejected both offers. However, I think some people would take issue with this logic in the first place because the Robinhood shares were purchased using loans from Alameda through 4 promissory notes totaling about $546 million. And some might argue that those were customer funds, so they should belong to creditors in the first place. Also, Sam allegedly pledged those Robinhood shares to BlockFi prior to bankruptcy, so an argument could also be made that those Robinhood shares belong to BlockFi, not Sam. Either way, though, recently, federal prosecutors seized about $700 million of assets that belonged to Sam Bankman-Fried, largely consisting of those Robinhood shares. So they're not up for grabs anyway. Continuing on, though, Sam claims that despite its insolvency, FTX International retains roughly $8 billion of assets of varying liquidity as of when Mr. Ray took over. He argues that purely spot customers, or those who did not agree to margin trading, should be able to be made fully whole using those remaining assets. Sam goes on to claim that there were numerous potential funding offers, including signed LOIs post-Chapter 11 filing, totaling over $4 billion. He believes that had FTX International been given a few weeks, it could have likely utilized its illiquid assets and equity to raise enough financing to make customers substantially whole. Since Sullivan and Cromwell pressured FTX into Chapter 11 filings, however, he worries that those pathways may have been abandoned. Even now, he believes that if FTX International were to reboot, there would be a real possibility of customers being made substantially whole. I'm obviously skeptical of Sam's claims that paint everything in a very positive light, but this does lead into another big story. John J. Ray, the new CEO of FTX, who does not particularly get along with Sam Bankman-Fried, recently said that he's looking into the possibility of reviving FTX International and has set up a task force to explore restarting FTX.com, the company's main international exchange. He's apparently suggested that there would be value in rebooting the platform, stating that everything is on the table. If there is a path forward on that, then we will not only explore that, we'll do it. John Ray said that he would look into whether reviving FTX International's exchange would recover more value for the company's customers than his team could get from simply liquidating assets or selling the platform. SBF seems pretty pleased with the news that John Ray is potentially open to reviving FTX, stating that, "I'm glad Mr. Ray is finally paying lip service to turning the exchange back on after months of squashing such efforts. I'm still waiting for him to finally admit FTX US is solvent and give customers their money back." Sam and John Ray do not particularly get along. Sam has told me in conversations that he's tried to email and contact John Ray multiple times to offer his help in Chapter 11, but has never received a response. The Wall Street Journal article actually outlined some of their drama. John Ray in the interview said that Mr. Bankman-Fried's comments were unhelpful and self-serving. "He hasn't told us anything that I don't already know." Sam Bankman-Fried responded in a text message, "This is a shocking and damning comment from someone pretending to care about customers." John Ray further comments that Mr. Bankman-Fried's proposed balance sheet would imply covering losses at the U.S. exchange through money that belongs to other customers. "This is the problem," Mr. Ray said. "He thinks everything is one big honeypot." Sam Bankman-Fried then responded in text, "Mr. Ray continues to make false statements based on non-existent calculations. If Mr. Ray had bothered to think carefully about FTX US, he would likely have realized both that his interpretation is wholly inconsistent with bankruptcy law, and also that even if one were to subtract $250 million from my balance sheet, FTX US would still have been solvent. Rather, Mr. Ray sees everything as one big honeypot, one he wants to keep." So basically, drama between two grown men. I love to see it. I'm obviously skeptical of Sam Bankman-Fried's statements. He clearly has incentive to paint himself in as positive and innocent a light as possible, but I also assume he probably has some actual valuable information that could potentially help the Chapter 11 team move a little bit more quickly. But what do I know? Anyway, FTT's token price actually pumped a little on the news that John Ray, the new CEO of FTX, was potentially open to the idea of maybe rebooting FTX. I do not give financial advice, but I am not touching FTT, but do whatever you want with your own money. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will stay up to date on this FTX saga. I'm also posting more about this on Substack and Twitter and Patreon, so you can find those links in the description box. I love you all so very much, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye! This is my Marvel style end credit scene, and I have no idea what I'll put here, but we shall see. Also, thanks Blinkist for sponsoring my video. Check the link below to subscribe.